Have you ever found yourself thinking about something, well, really personal? Something many men, especially as they hit their 50s, 60s, even beyond, probably consider but almost never talk about openly.
Mm.
We're going to talk about masturbation today. For so many, it's just wrapped up in, old myths, a lot of confusion, and frankly, a real lack of solid information.
Yeah.
It's one of those things you might worry about privately, wondering, am I actually doing any harm here?
And you're definitely not alone in feeling that uncertainty. It's really common. Research actually backs this up. A lot of men over 60 do continue with self-pleasure, but many are just, unsure about the real effects. How does it impact hormones or their prostate or even, performance with a partner?
Exactly.
So that's why we're doing this deep dive. We want to have an honest, science-based conversation to clear some of that up.
That's the plan. Our mission here is to really unpack the data. We're using insights from a pretty detailed YouTube video transcript from the Men's Health 360-degree channel.
Good sort.
And we're aiming to lay out 10, let's call them surprising benefits for mature men, but also, crucially, 10 potential risks you need to know about.
Balance is key.
Totally. The idea is to give you the knowledge so you can make sure your own practice, if you have one, is healthy and informed. So let's get into it, and maybe let's start with the good news.
Always a good place to start. And honestly, the range of positive effects regular self-pleasure can have, even later in life, it's pretty illuminating. Some might genuinely surprise you.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's hear it. What's the first big plus we should know?
Okay, first one, and this often catches people off guard. It's basically like a built-in workout for maintaining penile health.
A workout. How so?
Well, when you get an erection, it's not just about the sensation. You're actively pushing blood flow into the corpora cavernosa, those spongy tissues.
Right.
Think of it like regular physical therapy. It helps keep that tissue elastic, flexible, which is just vital for getting and keeping firm erections as you age.
So it's literally helping with the physical upkeep. That's fascinating. Does it affect other key health areas too? Maybe less, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. And this next one is really significant. We're talking about prostate health.
Okay. Big topic for older men.
Definitely. Multiple large studies, including a really well-known one from Harvard, have found a consistent link. Higher ejaculation frequency seems to correlate with a significantly lower risk of developing prostate cancer.
Wow. Significantly lower.
Yes. The thinking is that regular ejaculation helps clear out potentially harmful stuff, whole secretions, from the prostate ducts. Sort of like a natural cleaning process.
Yeah, natural cleanse for the prostate. That's a powerful point.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? What other hidden gems are there?
Here's one people often miss. Strengthening your pelvic floor.
Pelvic floor. Through masturbation.
Yep. Those rhythmic contractions during orgasm, they're not just incidental. They actively work key muscles down there, like the pubococci muscle. And having a strong pelvic floor it's vital. Not just for erections and controlling ejaculation, but it also helps prevent things like urinary incontinence, which becomes more common as men get older.
That's a really practical benefit, isn't it? Especially later on. And, life's stressful. Does it help with stress management at all?
It absolutely does. It's like this incredible built-in stress reliever. Research shows that orgasm triggers a pretty significant drop in cortisol levels.
Cortisol, the stress hormone.
Exactly. So lowering cortisol naturally helps with things like regulating blood pressure, reducing anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
It's a natural boost for your cardiovascular system and your mental well-being.
Like a natural chill pill that's always available. Amazing. And what about the brain chemistry side of things?
Ah, yes. That's another big one. Orgasm literally floods your brain with this amazing mix of feel-good neurochemicals.
Like what?
You get a rush of dopamine, that's your motivation and pleasure molecule, and also oxytocin, which people often call the bonding hormone. So this whole cocktail works like a natural mood booster. It gives you the sense of well-being, even emotional connection, which is just invaluable for mental health.
So it's hitting the physical, the mental, the emotional. It's quite holistic. Now, this next one you mentioned about self-detection sounds really important.
It really is. What's quite striking is that through regular self-pleasure, you just become incredibly familiar with your own body, your own anatomy.
Makes sense.
And this regular self-check, essentially, becomes one of the most effective ways guys actually discover early signs of problems. Things like testicular cancer or penile fibrosis, maybe other little changes that might otherwise go completely unnoticed for too long.
That could literally be life-saving. Just being that attuned to your own body.
Exactly.
Okay. And sleep. So many people struggle with sleep as they get older. Any connection there?
Yes, there can be. After orgasm, there's often this powerful, calming, almost sedative effect.
Really? Why?
It's down to hormone release. Again, things like oxytocin and prolactin kick in. Plus, you've got that drop in cortisol we talked about.
Oh, okay.
It just helps the body relax very deeply. Makes it easier to fall into that really restorative, deep sleep, which, yeah, often gets harder to come by with age.
A natural sleep aid without side effects. Interesting. And thinking bigger picture, circulation-wise, does this localized activity help generally down there?
It does. It's not just about blood flow to the penis itself. Masturbation actually enhances blood circulation throughout the entire pelvic region.
The whole area.
Yeah. So that benefits the bladder, the prostate, again, the surrounding muscles.
Yeah.
It helps prevent issues that can come from poor circulation or, stagnation in that area, like a tune-up for your whole lower core.
Keeps everything flowing, basically.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, what if someone struggles with, say, control during sex? Can this practice help with that?
Yes, it can definitely serve as a kind of training method for ejaculatory control.
How would that work?
Well, for guys dealing with premature ejaculation, masturbation offers a completely safe, private space to practice techniques, like the stop-start method, for example. It lets you learn your body's signals better, build more control, and then hopefully that translates over to sex with a partner.
That's incredibly practical. Really empowering. Okay, so final benefit. What's the ultimate point about just keeping things active?
This touches on something vital for lifelong sexual health. Keeping desire and the brain pathways active. We sometimes forget the brain is the biggest sex organ, right?
Sure.
So by regularly engaging, even just with fantasy and physical stimulation, you're keeping those neural circuits for desire and arousal firing. It helps maintain a healthy libido, keeps you responsive, even if you don't currently have a regular partner.
That really paints a much more positive picture than many might expect. Really eye-opening stuff, but we need the whole story, right? To really use this tool, as you called it, healthily, we've got to look at the potential downsides too. Strip away the myths on both sides.
Absolutely crucial. Understanding the potential risks is just as vital as knowing the benefits if you want a practice that's conscious and genuinely healthy.
Okay, let's switch gears then. Potential risks. What's the first one we should consider, maybe especially relevant today?
The first one is something perhaps subtle. Social isolation.
How so?
It becomes a risk when self-pleasure stops being just part of a healthy sex life and instead starts to become a substitute for real human connection, for intimacy.
Replacing connection rather than complementing it.
Precisely. The key is awareness. Making sure it adds to your life, doesn't become a reason to withdraw.
Okay, that makes sense. What's another potential issue, maybe more physical?
Second is something quite direct. Skin microlesions, tiny tears.
Ouch. How does that happen?
Usually it's from being too aggressive or, and this is really common, not using enough lubrication.
Right, friction.
Exactly. These little tears can cause irritation, inflammation, and they can even, unfortunately, open the door to infection.
So the fix is?
Simple. Be gentle. And always, always use a good quality water-based lubricant.
Easy enough. Okay, what about desensitization? That's something you hear people worry about.
It's a valid point. If you get into a rut, stimulating yourself in the exact same way, same pressure, same rhythm, every single time, your brain can kind of get conditioned, wired to expect only that specific sensation.
And then?
And then it can become genuinely difficult to get aroused or reach orgasm with a partner because their touch feels different.
So the solution is variety.
Absolutely. Consciously mix it up, vary your technique, your speed, your focus, keep your body guessing, essentially.
Right, keeps things responsive. Okay, now this next one sounds potentially serious. Masking underlying causes of ED, erectile dysfunction.
Yes, this is a critical one, really critical.
Explain that.
If you find you can get an erection fine during masturbation, but consensually struggle to get or keep one with a partner, it might be tempting to just, ignore the partner situation because things work solo, but that pattern can be dangerous. It might be masking serious underlying health issues.
Like what kind of issues?
Things like heart disease, diabetes, hormonal imbalances. Conditions that absolutely need medical attention.
Wow. So the bottom line is, if you notice that discrepancy works alone, but not with a partner, you really must see a doctor. Don't ignore that signal.
That's a massive takeaway. Listen to your body's signals across different contexts. Okay. What about physical discomfort? Can the way you do it cause problems?
Yes. Number 5 is nerve compression, often from just bad posture.
Bad posture while masturbating.
Sounds odd, maybe, but think about it. A lot of guys might do it sitting slouched in a hard chair or hunched over. That can actually compress the pudendal nerve down in the pelvis.
And what does that lead to?
Over time, it can cause things like genital numbness or a kind of persistent pelvic ache or pain.
So what's the better way?
Ideally, find a relaxed, comfortable position, lying down, maybe with some support. Avoid putting pressure on that nerve area.
That's a really practical tip I wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah.
Okay, moving from the physical to the emotional.
Yeah.
Could it become like an unhealthy crutch?
It certainly can. That's the risk of it becoming an unhealthy emotional escape mechanism.
Meaning, if it becomes your only way to deal with stress or boredom or frustration,
Yeah.
it can create a kind of behavioral dependency.
Right.
It's really important to have a whole range of tools for managing emotions.
Yeah.
Exercise, meditation, talking to friends, partners, therapists. A diverse toolkit is key.
Don't put all your coping eggs in one basket. Makes sense. And then there's the historical baggage, isn't there? Guilt and shame.
Absolutely. A huge factor for many men. They were raised with really powerful cultural taboos or religious messages condemning self-pleasure.
And those feelings can stick around.
They really can. And if that guilt or shame is persistent, if it's causing real distress, it can be incredibly helpful to talk to someone. A sex-positive therapist or counselor can provide a safe space to re-examine those old messages and reframe the practice in a healthier, more affirming way.
Getting professional help to unpack that advice. Now, we talked about infrequent ejaculation being a prostate risk. Is there a downside to being too frequent?
There can be, although it seems less common. While infrequent ejaculation is a concern, going to the other extreme, like multiple times every single day for a long stretch,
Yeah.
can occasionally lead to something called pelvic congestion. Basically, a feeling of heaviness or aching in the testicles and pelvic area.
So, too much of a good thing.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
The answer, again, is usually moderation and really listening to your body's signals. If things feel off, maybe ease back.
Balance and listening seems to be a theme.
Okay, what about fertility for guys who might still be thinking about having kids later in life?
Right. So, the potential impact on semen quality, it's important to clarify, this is really only a consideration if you and a partner are actively trying to conceive.
Okay, not a long-term fertility issue then.
No, it doesn't seem to harm long-term fertility. But ejaculating daily can temporarily lower sperm concentration in each sample.
So if conception is the goal.
Studies suggest that for the best sperm quality in that scenario, an abstinence period of about 2 to 5 days is generally recommended. Good practical info there. Okay, last risk. This one feels very modern. Disconnection from reality. Link to porn.
Yes, this is a significant concern in the digital age. If masturbation becomes heavily or maybe exclusively reliant on pornography, especially extreme or unrealistic types,
What's the danger?
it can seriously skew your expectations about sex, about partners, about intimacy. It can make it genuinely hard to connect with a real person in a satisfying, realistic way.
Because reality doesn't match the screen.
Exactly. The key here is balance. If you use visual aids, try to balance them with your own imagination, with memories of real, positive, connecting experiences. Keep it grounded.
Maintain that connection to real intimacy. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground, the good and the potentially problematic. So what's the big takeaway here for you, the listener?
Yeah, what does it all boil down to?
As we've explored, masturbation, especially after 50 or 60, it isn't just good or bad. It's a tool. And like any tool, how you use it is what determines its effect on you.
Couldn't agree more. The absolute secret ingredient here is consciousness. Awareness. If it's practiced with that awareness, with respect for your own body, and yes, with moderation, it really can be a powerful, even marvelous ally for your health, your vitality, your overall sense of well-being as you move through these mature years.
So maybe the final thought for you to consider is this. Now that you have this new perspective, this new lens on what's often a very private, maybe even unspoken topic, what other parts of your health or your daily life might benefit from that same kind of conscious, informed reevaluation, freeing yourself from old myths or those unspoken worries?
That's a great question to ponder.
Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and above all, keep prioritizing your well-being.